The image of the rising fist, a statue that says revolution in Arabic on it, Thawra, which stands in the middle of Martyrs Square and has become the symbol of the protest, was set alight by a group of young men on motorbikes and burnt to the ground. But protesters immediately saying, we will replace it and we'll replace it with something better, and they're going to do that at 5 p.m. today. Meanwhile, a schedule for the entire day planned, not just in Beirut, but across the country. Firstly, all morning, we've had different groups gathering. We've had lawyers, teachers, students, bakers, farmers, all sorts of people gathering in different areas across the city and marching down to the center of Beirut where the main protests are happening. Now, these are protests and their celebrations. They are celebratory protests because the idea today for Independence Day is that usually there would be a large army parade and everyone would stand there and cheer. Instead, what people said is we're going to have our own civil parade and we're going to cheer every group of Lebanese people and what they provide for the country. So people standing on the sidelines like they would when the army marches past, and instead cheering each of these groups as they march into the square. Lots of other events planned today. They're planning on baking a huge cake in the shape of a Lebanese flag. And one of my personal favorites, there's been a lot of humor in these protests. And today we're really seeing that. There is a particular Lebanese dessert called mirli, which you give to people when they are giving birth. It's a celebration of a new baby. They're holding today a celebration where everybody is bringing mirli and eating it because they are celebrating, they say, the birth of a new Lebanon through these protests.
Leila, so no end in sight for this opposition movement amid these rather celebratory protests, as you put it. But moving away from that, we know that President Aoun addressed the nation yesterday on Thursday. Is there any movement towards actually forming a new government, something that some of the protesters have been calling for?
Indeed, last night President Aoun spoke to the people again. He was much less inflammatory than the last time when he said that if people didn't like it, frankly, they should emigrate. He once again just said, we respect your right to protest, but we must keep the country running. We ask you to bear with us, all the same things that he said before. And once again, asking protesters to send somebody to talk to him and to discuss with the government. Now, we saw something very different this week beyond what protesters have been doing for over a month now, which has been shutting down roads and things like that. They specifically protested around the parliament and managed to stop an unpopular parliamentary session because they say it's unconstitutional for this current resigned government to be passing any laws. The fact that they now know that they can prevent Parliament from meeting and stop Parliament from doing things they don't want them to do is a huge progression for protesters and has really motivated them to carry on. It's now been nearly a month since Prime Minister Saad Hariri resigned. We've had no move forward in terms of nominating a new Prime Minister, nominating a new cabinet, or a call for elections. And right now, Lebanon, quite aside from these protests, is sinking into a deeper and deeper economic crisis in which the banks are very often closed. There have been limits of $1,000 a week put on people removing money from their accounts. No foreign transfers are allowed. Trade is practically shut down, and so local businesses can't do any business because of the economy. People are really suffering. Their hours are being cut. They're losing their jobs. Something must be done. The country is in crisis. And people saying to the government, we need you to nominate a new government. It is your responsibility as parliamentarians to do this for us. Very little response from the government so far.
Leila Molana-Allen with that report.